Welcome everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Cooking with Evey. Today, you're going to be in the kitchen with me making some pesto. So, two types of pesto, in fact. It turns out that I have a lot of carrots in my garden, as you may as well, that have a lot of greens on top of them. So today we're going to be working with carrot green tops, which a lot of you may not know are very nutritious for us. They tend to be a little bit bitter, and because of that, many people are afraid that they are not good for us. In fact, some even think that they might be poisonous for us. But the reality is they are full of nutrition, they're full of fiber. In fact, they have more vitamin C in them than carrots do, which is great for us, especially right now when we want to keep our immune system strong. Vitamin C is very important for keeping our immune system healthy. So let us take a look at what we're going to be making today. The reason I picked this, other than the fact that we have the carrot greens in here, is that this is also a great way if you have sugar cravings to kind of bust those sugar cravings, because you're having something healthy, nutritious. It has fiber in it, which is very good for us. Keeps food with us, keeps us healthy, and keeps us from craving sugar. So I thought this might be a good way to introduce the concept of introducing natural foods that help curb cravings. And that goes along with a theme that we're doing, a program, Mary Ellen and I, about busting those craving feelings. In fact, tonight we're doing our Take 20 on the pros and cons of sugar. So if you're curious as to some other tips on how to avoid sugar and why it is so bad for our system, join us tonight at 7 p.m. We will be on our group page, which is Tips for a Healthy Lifestyle with Evey and Mary Ellen. So hopefully I'll get to see you there. But in the meantime, we're going to be cooking up some fun things here in the kitchen today. So today, as I mentioned, we will be using carrot tops to make a carrot top pesto, which is this one here. And then we'll be making a traditional, or more traditional pesto, I should say, because it's non-dairy. And I'll explain a little bit more about that a little later on. A great way to enjoy this pesto, the carrot top pesto, is on crackers or with crudité. So let's go on to see how to make it. So what I did this morning was I went out and I harvested my carrots. I'm going to go through and maybe take a few of these leaves out that don't look so healthy. What we want to do, oh, and by the way, you don't need to be growing your own carrots. You can get carrot tops with organic carrots in your grocery or at a farmer's market. And now that you know that there's something to do with these, you might be more likely to buy them with the carrot tops on. The tip to keep your carrot greens from wilting is to cut the carrots away as soon as possible. This is true with any root vegetable that you get, whether it be beet greens or turnips. You need to cut the greens off because they will wilt very quickly if you do not. If you get your carrots from a grocery store, they might be a little bit more mature. The ones that I have in my garden are fairly young and soft. So I'm not going to bother to blanch them. Now, if you have older carrots or more mature carrots, the carrot greens can be a little bit tougher. So you might want to just plunge them into some boiling water for a few minutes, just to start cooking them and soften them. You'll see what I'm doing here as well is I'm getting rid of the stem by just stripping away the fronds so that we can use those, but we don't really want the tough stem that's in there. Hey, Mary Ellen, how are you today? Thanks for joining us. All right, so what I'm doing then is I'm just going through, this is about a bunch of, the amount of about a bunch of carrots. I'm just going to go through, and if you see any leaves that might have a little bit of yellowing on them, by all means, just remove those. We don't need those. And as I said, these tend to be younger carrots. My carrots, they don't grow very big. Here's an example from my garden. So the greens aren't very tough. And what we're going to do, I'm going to put this into a food processor, and I'm going to start pulsing them, just to start breaking them down, getting them smaller, so that I can fit our next green that we want to add to this, which is mint. And we're going to want about 1/2 cup of mint, roughly chopped. I also tend to have mint in my garden, so I just go outside and grab that. But if you want to, you can grab a couple of those plastic containers of mint that you find in your grocery store. If you're lucky enough to have a farmer's market that sells it, that's a great source as well. You realize it was going to take so long to take these fronds off of the stems. But almost done. It's very easy to do. What else can you do with carrot tops besides use them in pesto? You can chop them up, put them in soups. It has almost like a parsley-like flavor. So, you know, wherever you would use parsley, you could use carrot tops. All right. So I now have them in my container here. It's in the small container of this food processor, which is about 3 cups. I'm just going to start breaking these down. While this is happening, I'm going to grab my mint. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be removing the leaves until I have about 1/2 cup. These are small leaves, so I don't really need to chop them all that much. But as you can see, it's pretty easy to just remove those leaves from the stem. Here, I'll do one up close so you can see. There you go. And then I usually just pull the top right off. Oh, I wish you could smell how good my kitchen smells right now. It smells all minty. And wait till we do the basil. Oh, that's such a wonderful, wonderful smell. So as I mentioned, this pesto is a great sugar craving buster. Why? Because when I do it, it's not garlicky like a typical pesto. It actually has a little bit of sweetness to it. And naturally sweet foods are a great way to combat cravings for processed foods that might have added sugars to them. So right now I have about a good fistful of mint, and I'm going to add that in. And I'm going to start pulsing that together. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. When this is all chopped like this. So it's just roughly chopped. I can see there's a couple more leaves in there. I'm going to add a little bit more mint just because I really like that mint. I'm going to add that in, and it does add such a wonderful little sweetness to that. And that's why this tastes so great just on crackers. You could use it in a soup, to dollop in a soup. Something like a pea soup would be fabulous. Because mint and peas taste so good together. All right, so now I have a well-pulsed bunch of greens, and I'm going to add in the rest of the ingredients. So I have my greens from one bunch of carrot tops, one bunch of carrots. I have my 1/2 cup of mint. Now what I'm going to do is add in 1/2 cup of shredded dried coconut, unsweetened. All right. Now, they could be flakes as well. I just happened to get this one, which is was in a ethnic store that I was at. Okay. Golden coconut. So I have a half a cup of the coconut added. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of my olive oil. Now, usually I just kind of pour this in and kind of don't really measure it. I'm just going to pour it in now, and we'll make sure that that's a good amount. I'll let you know if we decide to add more in later on. So 2 tablespoons. We're also now going to add in 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar. And I like this combination. So what I do is 1 tablespoon of the white wine vinegar. And I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. And I have a lemon here. I'm going to roll it just to release some of those juices. Cut it in half. All right. 1 tablespoon is actually going to be less than a half of a lemon. So I'm going to measure it out into a bowl first. Just because, even though I like that lemony flavor, you know what, let me also, before I do that, I like to poke the cells just to release some of those juices. There we go. All right, I'm just going to squeeze out some of that lemon juice. Usually there's about, as I said, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice in a good-sized lemon. And it depends on how juicy that lemon actually is. Let's see how we did. So I'm going to pour in 1 tablespoon. Now, if you like really lemony foods, put in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice instead of adding in the white wine vinegar. That's also a good option. Right, I'm just going to pulse that together a little bit, get that mixing up. Alright, let me just get a scraper to scrape that down. I'm going to show this to you now. So this in and of itself is pretty tasty, but what's really nice is when you add some nuts to it. And in this case, instead of pine nuts that is in traditional pestos, we're going to add some cashews. Let me grab a strainer. Now, what I did was I let these cashews soak in some hot water for a little while. They've probably been soaking for about an hour. You don't have to soak them. It's nice to soak them because they soften up. It does tend to start breaking down some of the proteins that are found on the surface of them. All right, let's mix this up. Alrighty. I'm just going to scrape down the sides a little bit. Give it one more pulse. And that's it. Now, I had cashew pieces, so they were very small. If you have regular sized cashews, don't worry about it. Just put them in whole and they'll chop up as you're doing this. The longer you let this mix, the more finely it will mix up. I kind of like it just like this. All right, let me just transfer that so you can get a good look at it. This is what I meant by my smaller container inside the larger container here. This one holds about 3 cups. That gives you an idea of how much you're going to get. You probably get about 1.5 cups from this recipe. Now, you're going to find that this is a little bit more crumbly You know what? Remember I said about that olive oil? I'm gonna add in a little bit more olive oil because I'm finding it's a little bit more crumbly than how I would like it. So I'm gonna add in, let's see, that was about a teaspoon and a half. Let me grab the lid again. And let me just give that a spin. And that's the way you do cooking, right? You kind of take a look at it, kind of see if it works for you or not. Maybe I added a little bit more carrot greens. I did add a little bit more of the mint greens, and that can make it less moist when you're done. So feel free to kind of experiment, and if it doesn't look or it's not holding together the way you like, just add some more of that olive oil in. All right. So let's try that again. Yeah, this is better. And as I said, this is great on crackers. I have served this for company. It makes a great presentation if you have a little bit of like a sun-dried tomato or roasted red pepper to put, you know, little bits on top to mix and let people combine their own, or in this time of Corona, you can set it up ahead of time so that people don't have to touch the food. All right, let me just grab that. All right, hold on, let me just grab a little server here. And here you have your carrot top pesto. So, let me just show you the presentation. Like so. And these are just some seedy crackers that I make, but you can use Mary's Gone crackers. You can use any kind of crackers that you like. If you are gluten-free, I always go with the seeded crackers, but you know, whatever crackers you are enjoying, tastes great on these. And this adds a lot of flavor to them. I'm going to take a little bit of taste to make sure we did okay. Okay, it was a big taste. That's great. This has just enough of that lemon that comes through and enough of the sweetness from the coconut that balances out the flavors. That mint also comes through. So, hope you get to try this one. We're going to move on now to a more traditional pesto. One that uses basil as its base and as is traditional, has a lot of garlic flavor. I love this. I grew up with a lot of Italian cooking, so when I went dairy-free, I was looking for a way to make basil that wouldn't have the dairy in it. I'm just going to move this out of the picture here. And I do have a little smaller blender that we're going to use, just so you don't have to wait for me to clean that other one, right? Okay. Let's see what we got going here. Yep, here we go. Okay, so let me move these things out of the way. And let's get on with our traditional pesto. So the traditional pesto basically is basil, garlic, as I mentioned, usually pine nuts, and Parmesan cheese, and lots of olive oil. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use that basil, and as I'm talking to you, I'm going to strip the leaves from the stem. So what I did was, I wanted to show you, this is how I store my herbs. What I'll do is I'll put them in some water in a glass, and I did not refrigerate the basil. I do not like to refrigerate basil. It's not very happy when it gets refrigerated or when it gets wet. So I just did a quick rinse this morning after I harvested it. But, and And I just let it sit on the windowsill, and it is quite happy. Other herbs or vegetables, I actually do my celery like this. You put it in a tall glass and then put a plastic bag over the top of it so that it doesn't wilt. And parsley, cilantro will stay for days like that in the refrigerator then, because I do like to refrigerate those. So I'm hoping to get maybe about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of leaves from my harvest this morning. And again, basil is in season, so at your farmer's market, you'll see it everywhere, and it just smells so wonderful. A very distinctive smell, right? So, now, what we're going to do though, instead of using pine nuts, you have 2 options. You can use the cashews again, and I do that all the time. But this time I thought, I had some walnuts in the refrigerator, and again, here I am substituting ingredients, right? I'm going to try using the walnuts in this, because they also have a similar texture. They have the oiliness that the pine nut does. Now, the pine nuts definitely have a very, very distinct flavor, and they're wonderful. They may just be a little bit out of your price range because they can get expensive. If you have a source for them, I would wholeheartedly support putting in pine nuts. You can toast those ahead of time if you'd like. It adds a little bit more flavor to it, or you can just use them raw. All right. Oh, someone's calling me. Okay. All right. I'm going to let that go. And I'm just going to do like I did the first time, where the greens, just going to break them down so I can fit everything into the container. All right. There you go. All right, so we just started breaking it down. I'm going to add in 1 clove of garlic. And you don't have to be that fussy about chopping that garlic up. Just put it right in there. If you like lots of garlic, feel free to add more garlic. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of my of olive oil. Again, I'm going to add in about a 1/4 cup of walnuts, which is about a small fistful. I just realized on this chopper that you have a grind function and you have a chop function. I put it on grind. I should have put it on chop because I don't like the consistency. It actually got too chopped up. But live and learn, right? That's another thing about cooking. I'm going to put in about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a little bit of pepper. And I'm going to this time put it on the chop function. Oh yes, that's much better. Let me get another scraper and scrape that down. And now, here's where I'm going to add the nutritional yeast. So nutritional yeast is something that vegetarians are very familiar with. It's actually a yeast that's been grown that is then deactivated. So it doesn't have the same active ingredients as, say, yeast that you use for bread making or whatnot. But what it does have is a wonderful cheesy flavor to it. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. It's also very high in B vitamins. So I'm going to add a teaspoon to that. Very high in B vitamins. It's very good for you. It has fiber in it. It actually has some protein in it as well. So a very healthy addition to this dish. And then what I'm going to add to this is, I'm going to add some apple cider vinegar. Just about a teaspoon. To give it that a little bit of acidity. And that helps balance out, because if you add the Parmesan cheese, that does kind of have a little bit of that acidic or stronger flavor. And we're just trying to give a little bit of that back into the dish. All right. All right. I'm just going to give this a little taste. I am thinking I want a little bit more olive oil in there to balance out the apple cider vinegar that I put in it. Yeah. What I like too is, I tried the apple cider vinegar this time, but you can also add in the white vinegar. You could add lemon juice. Or you could add that white wine vinegar that I mentioned before. Let's try that. I'm going to try this again. Yes, I like that better. All right. So, I can place this on a cracker for you to see. You'll see the consistency is a little bit different than the first one that we did. This is great on pasta, if you do pasta, but also spaghetti squash or zoodled zucchini noodles. Excellent, just as is. So, there you have it. We have our two different pestos. Hope you try them. Hope you join us tonight for our Take 20 at 7 p.m. on our Tips for a Healthy Lifestyle with Evey and Mary Ellen. We'll see you then. It's 20 minutes on the pros and cons of sugar. Have a great day, rest of the day. Stay well. We'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.